Diablo has always been very obsessed with Rimuru, especially before his arrival. Even without being summoned by Rimuru to this world, he has had his eye on him for a long time. And you will understand this whole story here now in this video. Stay until the end to understand everything. Welcome to another video here on the Anime's Adventure channel. Diablo Noir. Our topic today is simple. Why is the devil so obsessed with Rimuru? Yes, he is, to the point of being unhealthy, even though he is such a high-level guy. The first and original Noir, the Black One, and possibly the most powerful among his companions. Although this position used to be discussed there in the underworld, precisely because another was considered powerful. Even the crowd considered Red himself, Guy Crimson, the original of the originals, who held this position in first place. So much so that they were constantly competing to see who was going to take the throne, who was going to be the king of hell in the underworld. But there was never a triumph for either of them, not for Guy Crimson, not for Diablo. Therefore, this problem was never resolved. Eventually, Rimuru ended up being summoned to the world to fulfill the wish of an arrogant young man, and in fact he fulfilled his end of the bargain. But after that was over, he lost complete interest in the young man and ended up using his ultimate demonic power to eliminate the boy himself, along with all the human nations involved in this, so that he could collect these human souls that received the Demon King's seed, so he could wake up as the Demon King, becoming the strongest demon of all, truly surpassing Diablo, because he hadn't been summoned yet and refused to evolve. Diablo was still an archdemon considered one of the most powerful that existed among the remains of his race. And the primordial also has how in demonology, the older a demon is, the stronger and more powerful it is. Because he has more experience, more magic, more knowledge, and he manages to accumulate all of this because of his age, the experience he has acquired throughout this time, the battles and everything else he has been through. Diablo's processing speed, his ability to solve problems, still manages to rival Raphael's throughout history. Rimuru has an answer to many important things thanks to his ultimate ability, Wisdom King Raphael. And interestingly, the devil used to reach the same conclusions in the same period of time as Raphael. He processed all this information, indicating to us that the mind of this demon visualizes with the power of a definitive ability, a relatively celestial ability. But still, despite that, knowing this ability, all the potential he has is something surreal. The admiration that the devil has for Rimuru, for his lord, ends up leaving him blind and makes him think completely wrong things sometimes, so far from reality itself. Diablo tries to find and search for meaning in anything. In the end, he ended up inventing the meaning, and yet it is adequately acceptable for certain circumstances that are developing there. Admiration for his lord even leads Diablo to do stupid things, acts that literally put the integrity of the entire world at risk. One time, for example, he risked the people, the whole world, so much that Guy Crimson, when he heard this story, he went with his hand on his head, desperate, because I had a migraine, you could say, yeah, absurd. Because of the amount of information he was receiving, amazing events for irrational reasons that he did, such as traveling through hell itself to be able to recruit the most worthy demons from hell to be able to meet Rimuru, introduce them to their lord so that they could join their battle lines, and then they would literally be Diablo's direct subordinates. Not just from Rimuru, but also from Diablo. And it would also end up falling as a direct reward for what he was giving, for him conquering the city of Falmouth, since it was a relatively big achievement that he had. But these demons that came were nothing more, nothing less, than the remaining primordial ones who had not yet been brought into this world. So, they didn't have a body, a name, or anything. We are talking about the current Carrera, Ultima, and Testarossa, alongside hundreds of sinister demon subordinates as well, but of lower levels. This is just so that, when Rimuru gives some orders, such as destroying the Empire, trying to reduce enemies to ashes, or embracing any kind of thing that has fire, which he really doesn't want to do, he can directly summon one of those subordinates to be able to do it for him, so he can be closer than Rimuru. He simply passed on his work to other people, which he found boring to do. Because the guy who would be in charge of these subordinates was him, and he proved to Rimuru that this guy would have to have enough power to destroy an entire country alone. And the devil has it, we know. He fulfilled all his words, because those they brought remained in this world and were considered the most powerful beings in hell. Even an army would be completely feared by everyone, symbolizing the power Rimuru would have. Tempest would win every war that would come. It would even become the strongest military force. We've already explained everything Diablo did in his level of obsession. The question is, why did he do all this and for what purpose? Why all this blind faith and love he has for Rimuru? In reality, the answer is quite simple. This answer came when he was talking to Guy Crimson, the first meeting between the devil and Crimson in the normal world. Afterwards, they were summoned to hell. This meeting sort of took place during a great battle, a gigantic battle that was taking place in the territory of the Demon Queen Luminous Valentine's capital. Now, Guy was completely happy because he could literally directly compete with the devil since the two of them were on the same level now. But the devil was very upset at that time, to the point where Guy asked him what Rimuru was about and he blurted out. He talked like hell, praised his master, everything. But then, what was it that encouraged him to enter this world and suddenly evolve like this? Guys, it was Rimuru. You will understand why. Guy even asked him why he had a fixation on the little girl, kind of like a slime boy. After he said slime, Diablo almost got heated. He almost started a fight with him at that moment. But all of this has to do with the reasons for evolving. That's where we enter that story again about the primordials of their species, who could be categorized as archdemons, being the oldest that could exist. But that was not their limit. They could evolve further than that, having a body, a name, and more power. They could evolve into the next stage, which would be known as the Demon Dukes. Exactly, that is, guys, the demons were constantly trying to increase their power. They were looking for a chance to introduce themselves to this world, a name or something that could finally make them rise with much stronger powers. But there was one original that didn't want to continue. He just wanted to stop. He didn't want to become stronger. He was Diablo. He thought his power was enough. Literally, after Guy disappeared, he became the top of hell. Reference to the underworld, literally the biggest, most powerful thing there was. And no matter who challenged him, he always won with as little effort as possible. This arrogance began to feed within him even more, and he created a very strong desire not to get stronger. Precisely that, because he was already the most powerful. And if he became much stronger, the battles would somehow become dull. How would he fight a person knowing that he is already at that level? Imagine him becoming a duke. He didn't want that. Now, considering all this information we saw here, he saw Rimuru literally reincarnated as the weakest being in this world, and even saw him managing to become ruler of one of the strongest empires in existence. Diablo doesn't know exactly where he came from or when he came, and he could be from anywhere. But he began to observe the development of the slime from the beginning, before Rimuru became the Demon King, which is why he began to become interested in this entity and began to follow its entire history, always observing from the underworld. And then he showed something he believed in. He began to create a feeling within him of the possibility of wanting to break the limits imposed by nature. Diablo, when he was born, was one of the strongest there was, and time made him the most powerful candidate in the world. But this idea was in the devil's head until he met Rimuru, meeting our goo, our slime. He saw that even the subordinates broke through the limits and reached great levels of nature when he gave the name to each of them. So he allowed his subordinates to achieve everything themselves. He welcomed everyone and made them overcome natural laws and finally opened a new path for everyone to go. And, to everyone's surprise, the devil's mind changed. Furthermore, his expression was completely different from what we expected. He began to believe that he saw the possibility of growing and existing. Even if you came into this world being thin, weak, small, you would be able to overcome strength. And if what Rimuru had achieved, all this now fully installed the gray flame within his body, the firstborn Diablo. Noir, who didn't have the name Diablo yet, something he had never thought of or considered or needed. He started to think, now he wanted to become stronger, he wanted to increase his power even more. Precisely for this reason, he was pulled by Rimuru to be summoned, to defeat one of Rimuru's enemies, and after that he always stayed by his side, implying that Diablo will never let go of Rimuru, regardless of the moment in history we are in. Literally still in anything. In fact, the character Diablo is very powerful and we should pay a lot of attention to his participation in the anime. Until the part we talk about, he is already very powerful, having increasing potential for the next events where he will be a key character. We sincerely hope you enjoyed our content, and we ask for your strength to continue producing each day, but then leave your like, subscribe, and share for more.